Hallo meine Freunde und willkommen zu einem neuen Video. Was geht ab, was geht ab, was geht ab? Und ich checke heute aus World War II Oversimplified Part 2. Now, a lot of you guys, I told you guys, if we can get the last video to 2,000 likes, then we are going to check out Part 2. And a lot of people have been DMing me because they're like, hey bruh, it hit 2,000 views, so, or not 2,000 views, 2,000 likes, my God. 2,000 likes. Oh my God, I gotta get my stuff together. Anyways, we hit 2,000 likes, so here we are checking out World War II Oversimplified Part 2. I learned a lot. I was actually shocked about how much I did not know about what actually happened during World War II. So I hope this can blow my mind some more. Like, comment, subscribe and stuff, guys, because this is, woo, it's getting interesting, man. It's getting real interesting. You gotta get the vibes and all that good stuff. I try to post every single day. If you guys have any other suggestions, any other videos you want me to check out, anything that you want to see me create, I got you, man. I mainly just do a lot of commentary reaction videos and stuff like that, and then I sprinkle a bunch of other little things here and there, so should be pretty interesting. But let's go ahead and dive nose deep into this thing and see exactly what we're working with, man, because I'm very curious to see what this is about, man. Like what additional information I don't already know, because they definitely spoon-fed me a lot of interesting information. And just for shits and giggles, let's see if we can also get this video to 2,000 likes as well. You know, just to help your boy out. I'm trying to learn more about Germany, but not only that, just the I'm trying to learn the history. I'm trying to learn the language. I'm trying to learn the culture. I'm trying to travel out there, but it seems like, you know, this whole pandemic's been messing with everything, so kind of fucked a little bit, but it's all good.
So what else is happening? Well, when I said Britain was all alone, that wasn't entirely true. Many Commonwealth nations and other allied colonies had joined the war in Britain's support. They would play a key role throughout the war, particularly in the African and Italian campaigns. On the Axis side, Germany, Italy, and Japan signed the defensive Tripartite Pact, bringing their military alliance even closer together. The Soviet Union's war against Finland should have been an easy victory, but it became a humiliating struggle, and their military ineptitude was put on full display.
You know what's crazy? I was so impressed that a small nation in general had was even remotely able to take out a bigger nation. I thought I had a simple way of thinking. You know, big nation take out small nation. Small nations always lose, but somebody made a really good point, and it makes sense too. Strategy will always win. Always win. It doesn't matter if you have like 3 people versus 5,000 people, bro. If those 3 people are operating a jet that can drop a nuclear bomb, then I mean, no matter how many people you got, it's about outsmarting your opponent, man. And this is nuts, dog.
In the end, they did force the Finns to sue for peace. Then, they continued their honorable campaign of pushing around much smaller countries by annexing the Baltic states and part of northern Romania.
See, pushing into smaller countries and stuff, right? That's what I thought. I'm like, yo, like, there's no way a small country can take out something as massive as like Russia or some shit, bro. Like, there's no way, but man, I tell you, I stand corrected on so many different levels.
Yeah. France's colonies in equatorial Africa were like, heck no, we aren't going to join the Germans, and they all pledged their allegiance to free France, except for Gabon, which had to be taken by military force. The Allies also tried to capture the strategic port of Dakar, but that ended in failure. Mussolini had seen Hitler's successes, and he thought now it was Italy's time to shine, so he tried to take British Somaliland, and that went pretty well. Then he tried to take Egypt, and that went less well. Then he tried to take Greece, and that went really badly. Churchill began referring to Italy as Europe's soft underbelly.
Apply cold water to the burned area. Oh my God.
He began favoring a military campaign from the south and started sending British troops to Greece. All of this had Hitler pretty concerned, and he moved to protect his southern flank. He had been getting friendly with Hungary and twisted their arm into signing the Tripartite Pact and joining the Axis powers. Romania was also eager to join for protection against the Soviet Union. The Tripartite Pact was designed to prevent any other countries from deciding to join the Allies. Specifically,
oh shit,
Britain's old ally, the pesky United States of America. When war first broke out, American public opinion was strongly against joining in. In 1940, there was an election. The Republican candidate said, I will not send any young Americans to die in Europe. And sitting President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, I will also not send any young Americans to die in Europe. Unless I have to, then I might. And Roosevelt won. Churchill asked him to join the war, but Roosevelt said, no can do, Winston. But you know what? Here, have some weapons. America began supplying the Allies with food and munitions. But
this is where it turns into that almost a little Cold War type thing. Now, this was not the Cold War era. I know that. The Cold War era happened much, much, much later after all this thing kind of blew over, I guess. But it's funny. That's what a lot of, it's almost like you have somebody in your school you don't fuck with, right? And then your friend, like you have you and that person you don't fuck with have kind of like, maybe like not even a mutual friend, but somebody you guys both know. But that person in your class, like let's say you're kind of cool with ish, is giving the person you hate, like, you know, maybe valuable information, or just giving them like cool shit. You know, like, yo, what the fuck? Like, or maybe just more ammunition to talk shit about you. I don't know. It's just, it fucking sucks. So that it's almost like the petty Olympics. It's like, I won't fight you, but I know who will.
There was one problem. German U-boats were sinking thousands of Allied supply ships in the Atlantic, including American ones. If the Germans could sever Britain's supply line, the UK would starve. Throughout the war, the Allies had to come up with better technology to fight the U-boats. Improved radar, aircraft with longer range, better weaponry and convoy tactics. At one point, a man even called a meeting and said, "Pykrete. You take some wood, you take some ice, you put them together, you get pykrete." And then he pulled out a gun and shot some wood and it shattered. And then he shot some pykrete and the bullet ricocheted off it and hit someone else in the conference room. Then they tried to make a pykrete aircraft carrier, but that idea was scrapped because that's a really dumb idea. In the end, Alan Turing and his team of codebreakers cracked Germany's Enigma code, and the U-boats gradually became less and less of a threat. Back in Africa, Britain decided to push Italy out of Egypt. Hey, that was pretty easy, so they kept going. Hitler realized he was going to have to finally step in and do something. He went to Bulgaria and Yugoslavia and said, "Hey, I'm going to move troops through you to get to Greece, so either join us or, you know, be invaded." Bulgaria opted to join them. Yugoslavia opted to be invaded. Then Greece finally fell to the joint German-Italian invasion. Damn. The British had moved troops from North Africa to fight in Greece, which helped Rommel and his tank divisions push the British back to Egypt. And they could have kept going, but a small...
Bro, how is Germany taking over so much shit? That is so crazy. Like, what? What was the military looking like? What were each of these like smaller countries like military like looking like, man? Like, oh my God, I want to like, I mean, this is oversimplified, but I kind of want to see how hard these guys fought. Like, because it looked like they just got like taken out, no problem. Like, oh,
the Australian force held out under siege for 8 months in Tobruk, denying the Germans a strategic port city and disrupting their supply line. Despite having some success in the Middle East, the British didn't seem like any real threat for now. Hey, Soviet Union, look out.
What?
With 3 million troops, Hitler launched the largest ground invasion in history, and Stalin was far from ready. Both Churchill and Roosevelt had warned him of an impending attack, but he dug his head in the sand and the Soviets didn't stand a chance.
Wait, so Roosevelt warned what? Wait, he warned Stalin. This is interesting, bro. What the fuck?
He made staggering progress, with huge encircling movements capturing mind-boggling numbers of Russian troops. A 250,000 at Bialystok, Minsk, 300,000 at Smolensk, nearly 700,000 at Kiev,
what?
Again at Vyazma and Brest.
What?
Leningrad.
Bro, how? How? What the fuck? That is insane. That is fucking crazy.
A siege that would last an insufferable 4 years. The invasion of Russia had been Hitler's main ideological goal from the beginning, and his
Wait, what? So he turned on he turned on Stalin, bro. I mean, I knew he was a snake, but like, damn, dog, like he didn't give a shit who he stepped on, bro.
Hatred for the ethnic peoples there was now unleashed in all its fury. The Eastern Front of the Second World War was brutal for all that endured it. The Germans were now inside of Moscow, and that's it. It's all over. But then it happened. It got cold. Stupid cold. Hitler had hoped the Soviets would give up before winter, but they kept fighting. His commanders came to him and said, "Can we please dig in for the winter and wait until spring?" "No. Keep going." "But oil is literally freezing inside our vehicles." "Wow. That's fine. Keep going." "We're having to leave the corpses of our frozen horses by the side of the road so we can still find our way in the snowdrift." "Perfectly normal. Keep going." Hitler hadn't given his millions of men winter clothing and supplies because he thought he really should have won by now. Then, Stalin called in troops from the Siberian front, specially trained to fight in the extreme cold.
Holy shit, and fuck their shit up. So obviously, what I'm about to see here is they're about to push these guys all the way back, and Russia's about to be like, you didn't know about our winters though, huh? You know about our winters? Alright, cool, bet. Yeet! All of them. Yeet! You feel me? Like,
match. They were now being pushed back. They had no choice but to dig in and wait for winter to end. Germany's victories were staggering, and Japan was eager not to miss the victory bus. Their war in China had come to a standstill, but they wanted to keep expanding their sphere of influence and getting those sweet, sweet raw materials. They began making plans to expand southward, but there was a problem. Southeast Asia was heavily colonized by America and Great Britain. It was also full of ocean. Ocean meant naval combat, and there was no way the Japanese Navy could stand up to the US and the UK. So they thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could destroy their navies before we begin our conquest? And so it was. On December 7th, 1941, the Japanese launched a surprise air raid on the US Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor and inflicted a huge amount of damage. They also attacked British colonies in Southeast Asia.
So it was almost like a preemptive strike so they could prevent America from getting involved if they did decide to push south. That fucking sucks.
Had no choice but to declare war on Japan, and so did Churchill. Hitler then declared war on America, even though he totally didn't have to. The attack on Pearl Harbor seemed like a big Japanese victory, but they didn't attack any of the naval repair yards, fuel storage tanks, or the submarine base, meaning the Pacific Fleet would be up and running again pretty soon. In the meantime, though, the Japanese were able to begin their conquest. They took Guam, the Gilbert Islands, Wake Island, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. They forced Thailand to join them so they could march their troops through to Malaya. They swept through Singapore, North Borneo, the East Indies, New Guinea, the Solomons, and they were now threatening northern Australia and the borders of India. Japan's victory had been as staggering as the Germans, and it reinforced the Japanese idea that this was a divine war which they were destined to win. But their victories had been based on speed, not power, and power would eventually catch up with them.
Oh my God.
For now, though, in all occupied nations, the people suffered. Persecution, forced labor, harsh punishments for any who spoke out against their occupiers. In Europe, the Nazis were rounding up ethnic minorities and other unwanted groups and individuals. In particular, millions of Jewish people would suffer through the terrible events of the Holocaust. Brave resistance movements rose up in defiance of their invaders, while the people held out for hope. And hope was coming.
There was a group called the Parachuters and stuff. That's like what I know them as, and I think they tried to plot against Hitler, and it didn't go right. Like, they tried to organize a plan to kill him, and it went horribly wrong, man. It went horribly wrong. That shit was like, I forgot. I think the name of the movie was Parachuters. I watched, but anyways, it was like scary as fuck. The ending was so sad. So obviously we know what happened, but it was crazy.
It was over, and Hitler could continue his push eastward. But this time, he switched up his strategy. He wanted to focus on the south. His plan was to cut off the Russian armies in the Caucasus, an area full of oil, and then invade the Caucasus and take all the oil. His forces moved across the north with ease, and Hitler got cocky. He rerouted the 4th Panzer Army south early, leaving the 6th Army to complete the encircling movement alone. To do so, the 6th Army had to reach and take the key Soviet city of Stalingrad. The Russians defended it fiercely, and Stalingrad saw some of the harshest fighting of the entire war. The Soviets held up the German advance for 5 months as they battled in the war-torn city, which bought them valuable time. When the Germans had first launched their invasion a year earlier, the Soviets had moved their factories to the east. Those factories had been building a butt-ton of tanks and aircraft and getting the Soviet army up to scratch. Now, it was ready. Stalin gathered his new and improved forces around the city, and in an attack that resembled Hitler's own encirclement tactics, they began surrounding the 6th Army. Hitler's commanders came to him and said, "Hey, maybe we should retreat." But Hitler said, "No, you stay."
Oh my God.
The entire 6th Army was trapped and had to surrender. With complete air superiority, the Soviets started pushing westward. For Stalin, it was a resounding victory. For Hitler, an absolute catastrophe. Things also weren't looking too good for Hitler elsewhere. With America now in the war, Allied bombing over German cities reached devastating levels. In Africa, the British had pushed Rommel back again. Then they were pushed back again, and finally, after a decisive battle at El Alamein, and with American and British troops arriving in the west, the Germans and Italians were squeezed out of Africa. Japan was also already seeing its rapid success being turned around. They attempted to take the island of Midway, but the US Navy was ready for the attack, and they sank Japan's carrier. Actually, they sank a lot of them. It was a battle from which the Japanese Navy would never recover. British, Indian, and Chinese troops held the line in the harsh jungle terrain of Burma, and the Japanese suffered losses in the Solomon Islands and New Guinea. They began to realize they were not invincible. With the Axis out of Africa, the Allies had to decide their next move. Churchill still wanted to attack from the south, while the Americans preferred a full sea invasion in northern France. All right, said the Americans, we'll do it your way. Allied forces successfully landed in Sicily and began moving north. They also carried out bombing raids over Rome. The thing was, many of the people in Sicily had relatives living in America, and they greeted the American troops quite warmly. With the war reaching home territory, most Italians just weren't that into it, and Mussolini was suddenly very unpopular. He was voted out by his own fascist Grand Council and was toppled from power. Italy immediately began negotiations for surrender. Hitler wasn't surprised and had already sent reinforcements southward. In an operation he ironically called Operation Axis, German troops quickly disarmed Italian troops in the north. The Allies continued fighting the Germans up through Italy, but then winter set in, meaning mud, and everything slowed to a halt. Alright, said the Americans, let's do it our way as well. Germany had made itself a lot of enemies, and millions of Allied troops had been gathering in England as factories worked around the clock producing the war material needed for a super crazy massive the likes of which the world has never seen before invasion of Europe. The Germans knew an Allied invasion would come, but they didn't know where it would land. Thanks to Allied deception tactics, they thought there was a pretty good chance it would come at Calais, but the Allies were really going to land in Normandy because it was less fortified and the beaches were nicer. Under the careful planning of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the invasion that had been long in the making was just about ready to go. Just one thing was preventing the launch: the British weather. For a short while, everyone sat around waiting for a decent day, and then it came. On the night of June 5th, over 1,000 bombers took off and raided coastline defenses, while paratroopers were dropped inland in a bit of a chaotic operation, tasked with sabotaging defenses and capturing key bridges to stop any German reinforcements from reaching the beaches. Early the next morning, the barrage came, as Allied ships fired a huge number of shells at the German fortifications, and then the landings. The Americans at Utah and Omaha, the British at Golden Sword, and the Canadians at Juneau. It was a tremendous struggle with a great loss of life, particularly at Omaha, but the Allied troops captured the beaches and the landings were a success. Then they began their movements inland. They took the port of Cherbourg and the city of Caen. The Americans moved south to capture Brittany. Then, in a massive disaster for the Germans, British and Canadian troops from the north and Americans from the south trapped the German 7th Army in a near wipeout encircling movement. In August, Allied troops landed in the south of France to little resistance. On one beach, all they found was a Frenchman handing out champagne. Paris was liberated, and the Germans were pushed out of France as the Allies entered Belgium. In the Far East, the Allies started to push the Japanese out of Burma, as the Americans launched a two-pronged offensive in the Pacific. In the south, General MacArthur led the push to liberate the Philippines, while General Nimitz oversaw the brutal island-hopping campaign. American forces had to make hard-fought landing after hard-fought landing on fiercely defended small islands as they moved steadily towards the Japanese mainland. The Japanese believed that the greatest thing a person could do was to die in battle, and the most dishonorable act was to surrender. As a result, they fought ferociously to the very end, and the closer the Americans got to the mainland, the more ferocious the resistance became. In February 1945, the Americans captured the island of Iwo Jima, and an intense firebombing campaign of Japan's wooden cities began. The Allies suffered some setbacks trying to liberate the Netherlands, but they were making progress and were now threatening the industrial heartland of Germany. Hitler's health, both mentally and physically, was rapidly deteriorating. Things were looking bad, and he was desperate. He said, "We need to turn this thing around, and I've just the trick." Remember a few years back when we blitzkrieged through the Ardennes and trapped the Allied forces in Belgium?
Wow, he's trying to blitzkrieg again, dude. What an idiot! Oh my God.
Same thing. Again. He gathered his forces and tried to pound them through the Ardennes. He used up the remainder of Germany's strength and resources, and he managed to create quite a nice bulge. He also trapped some American forces in the Belgian town of Bastogne. The Germans sent the trapped Americans a message saying surrender or be annihilated. When it was read out to the commanding officer, he said, "They want to surrender? No, sir, they want us to surrender." Nuts! And that's what they sent off as their official reply. General Patton's Third Army then managed to break the siege from the southwest, and the Germans were pushed back. Hitler's last-ditch attempt had failed, and what followed was a total collapse of the German forces. The Allies pushed into Germany from both sides. The Soviet Union took Warsaw and kept pushing to Berlin. In his bunker, Hitler realized all hope was lost. Berlin fell, and with it, Hitler's dreams of a great German empire. Two of the Axis nations had been knocked out. One to go. The Americans began their assault on Okinawa, the last island before they would reach the Japanese mainland. The desperate Japanese fought hard, launching kamikaze attacks on the US ships. The citizens of Okinawa suffered through the terrible fighting, but in 2 months, the island was captured. The Allies now had to make a choice. Either continue the devastating struggle up the Japanese mainland, or they could try to coerce the Japanese into surrendering now. In July, the first successful atomic bomb test took place in New Mexico, and the destructive weapon was ready for use. America and the UK were also seeing the Soviet Union not so much liberating as occupying its captured territories, and so they wanted to put on a show of force. On August 6th, the A-bomb fell on Hiroshima. Then, on the 9th, Nagasaki.
Damn.
The cities were reduced to rubble, and for the people living there, it was a terrible fate. But for the Allies, it achieved their main aim. In September, the Emperor announced Japan's surrender, saying the war situation has developed not necessarily to Japan's advantage. After 6 years, war was finally over.
Damn.
The Allies occupied Japan for 8 years. The Emperor was allowed to keep his position, but General MacArthur made sure this picture was printed in the Japanese press to display to the Japanese people that their Emperor was not the divine, powerful being they had believed. Germany was divided between America, the UK, France, and the Soviet Union. In 1949, the Allied sectors were united into West Germany. The Second World War had been more terrible and destructive than the first. In its aftermath, two major superpowers with two very different ideologies had come out victorious, and the tension between the two of them would create a new kind of war. A very, very cold one.
Holy
wow, Churchill, that looks just like me. And your app is doing really well. In this case, it...
Oh, wow. This is Skillshare promotion. That's actually pretty fucking crazy, dude. What the fuck? That is insane. That is insane. Oh my gosh. That was a pretty good breakdown, honestly. They kept it short, sweet, to the point without getting into a whole lot of detail. Obviously, like, you know, for a few things that I was very... that I wasn't super clear on, which was just like the details that, you know, they're important, but you know, they don't really change too much of what was said. You know, I just wanted to know more about like the countries that were in the fight and stuff like that, and kind of what they went through, outside of like, you know, just Germany itself, but like the people that were impacted and getting taken over and stuff like that by all of the events of that were happening during World War II, because everybody was affected by it, man. Everybody was affected by it. So anyways, very interesting video, very informative, and I enjoyed it, every second of it. It was just very like, wow, very eye-opening. And let me know what you guys think about this. Was it accurate? Did you guys see some flaws? Of course, some people are going to see flaws. I mean, it's the internet. Somebody's going to be looking at every little nook and cranny and going like, hey, that's not right. So I don't know. Let me know exactly what you think. I actually now know what Blitzkrieg is, which is fucking crazy because I didn't understand it in school, I guess. Like, the way it was described was just a little bit. Like, I understood, obviously, like, you know, blitzing and stuff like that, football, but I didn't really understand the Blitzkrieg, like, tactic very well. But then I'm like, oh, shit, that makes sense. Bruh, this was wild as fuck, yo. Wild as fuck. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Turn on your post notifications, and I will see you guys a little bit later. I'm going to be posting a few more videos and then calling it a day. So, love you guys, and till the next time I see you guys again, take care. Peace. Hey, what's up? Did you guys subscribe to the channel? Did you subscribe to the channel? Well, if you haven't, make sure you do that. Also, we do have a Discord. The Discord link is always going to be in the description down below on any of my videos, and it's dope. What we do on Discord is pretty simple. A lot of you guys I'm collecting you guys from a bunch of different countries, a bunch of different places, and you guys want to teach me a whole bunch of stuff. You guys can join the Discord and teach me anything. You can send me any kind of messages and stuff. You can actually post memes. You could participate in the community and just make friends. Just go ahead and join the Discord and see what kind of situation you're getting into for yourself. Also, there's going to be some giveaways in the future. There's going to be some giveaways, but to create some incentive for that, I need you guys to follow me on Instagram. Are you guys following me on Instagram? You know what my Instagram looks like? Probably don't know what my Instagram name is. It's right there. Just go ahead and check it out. Check it out. It's dope. Just follow me on Instagram. I do live streams every day. I try to, you know, engage with you guys in every way possible. I know not a lot of creators are very engaging with their fan base. I try to be engaging. So just go ahead and check it out. There's no harm, no foul. Follow me on Twitter too. I honestly am trying to grow my Twitter, but I don't really post that often on there. But when I do, you guys will be the first to see whatever post those will be. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you guys want shout outs or whatever, I don't know, we have a lot of upcoming independent artists that have been hitting me up as of late. I might create a series where I favor my international independent artists and stuff, and I might promote you guys for free, but it might just be 1 or 2 a week, you know, and you guys can give me some feedback on that. But all to say, follow me on my social medias. All right, if you guys aren't doing that already, you need to do that because that's a pretty big deal. I'll see you guys later, but enjoy the content I create. It's gonna be random reaction videos, a lot of everything. Reaction videos, vlogs, challenges, cooking videos, gaming videos, anything you guys suggest when you join my Discord or message me on Instagram. But I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Follow me. Peace.